Hi, my name is Stephanie Kempadoo, Director of Brand Strategy and Insights for the New York Post. I belong to Post Studios, our in-house content studio that supports ad sales and partnerships. Today, I'll be taking you through our pivot into building successful franchises as a news publication. In the past 2 years, we've shifted our sales strategy to lean into two of our biggest editorial strengths. First, we have celebrity entertainment with Page Six, which has proven itself to be an influential and iconic pop culture brand for over 40 years. I can attest our Taylor Swift coverage is unbeatable. Then we have New York Post Sports, which has been deemed the best sports in town, with expert analysis, game recaps, and the latest on all of your favorite New York sports teams. Go Mets. Let's not talk about the Knicks yet, by our nationally renowned sports writers. Now, you may be asking yourselves, why the pivot into building franchises? About a year ago, we saw in the marketplace that advertisers were gravitating towards editorial content universes that center around vibrant personalities and editorial insiders. We took a look around and realized we have tons of personalities we could highlight right here in Page Six and sports. Franchises provide a brand-safe environment, an opportunity to build communities around content that we are personally passionate about, content that can be planned out proactively as opposed to being fully driven and/or inspired by the current news cycle, and tent poles that clients can be seamlessly integrated in because we thought ahead of time and come back to year after year. Whenever thinking about our content, everything has to serve our audience first, or it won't be successful for our advertisers. For this to work, we not only had to be willing to put in an investment of time and resources, but also reorganize our internal team to make sure that each franchise had support and individuals that were dedicated to maintaining and growing them. We then had to ask ourselves 3 key questions. What topics do we want to make into franchises? Where is the opportunity to create content universes? And most importantly, how are we going to actually measure success? So internally, we created a franchise playbook with our commercial and editorial teams on the steps and deliverables to evaluate, greenlight, and successfully bring a franchise to market. Steps included our evaluation, pre-launch, development, launch and maintain, and of course, grow. When evaluating prospective franchises, we first had to identify the content that already works, what topics are trending on site, on social, and it really could provide a unique twist that you couldn't find anywhere else. We had to figure out who are the people we could build a franchise around, who has their fingers on the pulse of the industry and the personality to match. We wanted them to be our experts. Once we had that, we take a look at the audience that they're already attracting. So once we've evaluated on those questions, we move on to pre-launch development. We focus on where their content is already resonating, whether that is in articles, across social, video, podcast. We want to make sure that we're amplifying the channels that are already working before we move on to others when building out this content universe. And then we have to decide which channels we want to invest in and how we want to add to it as time goes on. Now, my question for you is, does anyone here love reality TV? I'm talking about Real Housewives, Love is Blind, Summer House. Any hands up for those? We all know, we all watch it. Pandemic definitely made that show. You're gonna love virtual reality. This actually started off as a way for our Page Six reporters, Danny and Evan, to share their reality TV passion and stay in touch with their favorite stars. During the pandemic, Danny and Evan actually started a Zoom video interview series that highlighted all things reality TV, showcasing viral moments, episode recaps, and exclusive interviews with the many housewives they had on call. And when I say on call, they actually do have their phone numbers and do text with them very often. We saw success with the video series on Page Six, with a lot of those viral interview moments popping up on social. When our partners at Spotify suggested that we should also turn this into a podcast, we realized we had something really special here. We already had successful sports podcasts, but on the entertainment side, Danny and Evan had this ability to really have guests open up to them, feel comfortable with spilling all of the tea, and be able to create a lot of these viral moments. For the pre-launch development, we rebranded that virtual reality video series into more of a brand that was led by Danny and Evan. This meant more video interviews within our Page 6 studio, podcast episode, and more clips from these amazing interviews across our social platforms. To really expand the brand itself, we saw there was an appetite to see these interviews in person. So we created a live event series in New York City at venues like City Winery and Chelsea Table and Stage. This turned into an advertiser and a PR favorite. The reality TV stars that joined us were ready to spill it all, which led to record-breaking articles and clips being picked up by other entertainment brands. The content stemming from one of these shows was actually featured as a storyline in the season premiere of Real Housewives of Miami, and just recently for Summer House as well. And also my little claim to fame here is that I actually got a hug from Carl from Summer House, who complimented my outfit and also told me that I was doing an amazing job. We actually capitalized on all this attention by creating dedicated social handles just for VRT, a newsletter for the brand, and then we moved into actually creating segments within the VRT universe. So we have video series called 24 Hours, where Danny and Evan spend a day with a reality TV star, and Tea Time, where guests play a game of juicy questions against a backdrop of a Paris cafe. But here's the thing, we needed something bigger to grow the brand. And what better way than to create the VRT Awards, where our audience will get to vote on their favorite stars in categories such as Hot Tea of the Year, Most Coveted Closet, and yes, a golden kettle. And of course, we'll be celebrating all of our winners with a live event in New York City with an actual musical performance as well. We had brands that love VRT so much that they've grown with us as we've developed the brand from sponsoring just the video series and podcasts to then move on to the live events, to the segmented video series, social, and now the actual awards itself. For my New York sports fans, we created a franchise called New York Sports Minute. Its development differs slightly from VRT. We have a very dedicated sports audience that come to our site multiple times a day to catch up on their favorite sports news. We actually received feedback from our dedicated sports readers, whether it was through article comments, inbound emails, or even our paid Sports Plus subscribers, that there was no one place on our morning homepage that helped readers catch up on everything they needed to know about New York sports to start their day. So what did we do? We created a content solution based on this feedback, which included a homepage module, which you see right here, to curate this content in a special way every morning on the sports homepage. But we didn't stop there. We decided, you know what, let's add videos on site and on social media to kind of complement these quick article hits. Essentially, if you didn't have time to read these 5 articles, you could just watch the video. The challenge that we had with this content series is that it launched as early as 7 a.m. in the morning because we want to catch all the commuters as they are on their way in, and it was kind of a big resource drain for our team, especially for filming those videos to complement the actual articles itself. So we've actually pivoted to only doing that when they're actually sponsored. So what have we learned from actually launching these franchises? One of the key things is we had to rethink our internal expectations, whether it is how content could perform, to the type of audience it could attract, or reevaluating our initial choices for our core personalities. For content performance, we learned that there would be slower growth for certain distribution channels versus others. Depending on if it's Page 6 or sports, it's much easier to build a following on social media when compared to platforms like podcasts. When it came to VRT, we internally thought this content would resonate definitely with a younger Gen Z audience, and while it does on platforms like TikTok. On-site, the audience are still like millennials, Gen X, and it's pretty consistent with what we know about our audience so far, with social skewing a ton younger and on-site being a bit older. Launching a franchise means consistently evaluating our initial choices. This was true especially for our sports franchises. While we had planned to have one or two main faces for our sports franchises, we realized we have a deep roster of talent to showcase. And when I'm talking about our roster, about all of our sports editors who are really knowledgeable and who are celebrities in their own right when talking about, the NFL, and MLB, and, in particular, our New York teams. So we pivoted to having our two main hosts with a rotating cast of contributors. Now, reporting. It has been a challenge and a learning experience in its own right, and especially since I work in insights, this is definitely a passion for me. While the strength in our franchise is rooted in its many distribution channels, there isn't one specific aggregator to kind of put all of this performance and reporting in one place. Additionally, we had the extra hurdle of having a couple of on-site video players that caused a lot of delays in gathering data from each specific one. So what we've been doing is we've been working with our data and analytics team to set up a process with all of the departments involved to kind of pull the data that we need. They've been successful in creating a Google Looker Studio dashboard with feedback from each individual department on key data points to include. So it breaks down performance for different channels, including articles, on-site video, podcasts, social, YouTube, newsletter, and when applicable, homepage placement engagements. It has been personally a lifesaver for me when pulling information for our sponsors of these franchises, as well as potential sponsors when they have questions on how these perform. Another thing that we've learned is that we've fostered such a deep trust with our long-standing advertising partners that we're just excited as us when we've launched each of our franchises. And since they've grown with us as we've developed them, they're really willing to partner with us on these first-to-market programs. For example, Cadillac, they started out sponsoring content for VRT on site, with the podcast, and then moved on to sponsor the live event series, and then moved on to sponsor 24 Hours, and now they are a sponsor of our VRT Awards. Our partners not only want to surround these programs, they also kind of want to collaborate with us. They want to bring new franchises and content series to readers. We're also focusing on expanding our franchises. We're looking for new ways to push our franchises and talents to new heights. The VRT Awards, perfect example for us building not only on our live event series, but finding new way for our readers to engage with our content. The hope is to keep building on it, on the awards year after year, making it a must-watch and a 10 for all of our reality TV junkies. We remind ourselves that all award shows started off small before they became pop culture icons. Now, building on our success, we've seen the success of our franchises across sports and Page Six, but where else can we actually apply it across our portfolio? So we created New York Next, which you can see in this video over here, a New York Post business franchise that's hosted by our financial correspondent, Lydia Monahan, highlighting the visionaries and innovators shaping the future of the city and beyond. It's a great environment for advertisers looking to reach business and finance decision makers. And then we also have in this screenshot over here a health-focused multi-platform sponsored editorial series called Best Medicine. And we have another one that we created called Injury Report, which we created specifically for hospitals and healthcare companies. Now, our goal with franchises is to create content that resonates with our audience. And of course, drive new business. It's all about case studies and FOMO. We've seen a lot of feedback in market from other brands that have seen our partners like Cadillac and Bloomingdale's and NYU Langone Health and their executions in the wild and want to learn more. Having new partners experience a VRT live event in person is probably one of the best ways to introduce them to the content universe that we've created, as well as them getting to meet their favorite reality TV stars and potentially get a hug from them and/or talk business as well. I recently had the privilege of attending a workshop session hosted by Dr. Marcus Collins, an award-winning marketer and author of For the Culture. We discussed the impact of culture, the power that comes from having great cultural proximity, and how we as marketers can leverage culture to get people to take action. There was one insight that he discussed that had a profound impact on me. He said, as a news media company, our impact on culture can be compared to that of a firework. Quick bursts of relevance and impact, but tends to fizzle out really quickly. Our goal as marketers is to create campfires, smaller pockets of influence that facilitates conversation and community with like-minded people, that then invites others to partake and join. Our strategy around building these franchises is one way that we are building community around the content that we hope will have a lasting effect on culture. We hope you'll join our campfires by checking out our franchises and joining in on the conversation. I promise to bring the s'mores and all the tea. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. What questions do we have? All right, well, while you're thinking, actually, right here.
Hi, two questions again. So first question is, out of all of the platforms and offshoots of these franchises, can you tell us, and I totally understand if you can't, which ones have the greatest return in terms of a revenue potential, right? Is it video, is it the awards, is it sponsorships? And my second question is, you used the term earlier, brand safe, to describe these franchises. When I think of Summer House, I don't always think of brand safe. So I'm just wondering how you make that case to potential partners, or if you're really, it's important to rely, as you described, on these trusted partners first. So just take me inside that conversation. Thank you.
So for brand safety, Summer House, yes, can be a bit touchy, as well as some of the Real Housewives. But the way that we actually go through the content with Danny and Evan is they really create like a positive environment there. And yes, some of the interview guests will spill some tea that, again, will get picked up by other platforms. But a lot of the partners that we've spoken to, they really want to capitalize on this inherent investment that everyone has into reality TV stars and the influencers that they have there. And aside from that, Page Six has always been that brand that has always had to fight, the brand safety question. And with this, they kind of do see virtual reality just being more of that curated content, again, that we have a little bit more control over, that won't get too much into that salacious, more gossipy type of content. And then for the platforms where we see the most return on investment, I would definitely say it's definitely the events with the live event series, as well as the videos, because a lot of these franchises, especially for Page Six, started off video first. And then again, moved on to podcasts. And then the VRT Awards, this will be our first year. So hopefully maybe next year, if I'm back, I'll be able to give you an update on, how that actually went for us. Thank you.
All right, Stephanie, I'm actually curious, from concept to maturity, is there a typical length of time it takes for one of these franchises to develop?
VRT is a little bit of a special case because it was already started and it did take a couple of years, again, for us to realize, hey, there's potential here and we can kind of really build this out. But that's also why it's a franchise that has moved along the fastest as well as more developed. But for other franchises like New York Sports Minute, it took us about maybe a year. And I would say the reason why it took so long is more of the technical part of it. Having homepage modules and placements, that is a bit of a task in itself, since it's not just the video and the branding part of it.
First of all, this was fantastic. And specifically, as personalities, how did you use data and analytics to determine they were the right fit long term? And how do you assess the risk of having individuals tied to the franchise?
So with Danny and Evan, virtual reality was kind of their baby because they were Page Six editors before they moved on to being talent and hosts. But we did actually look at the data itself, and the articles and content and videos that they were doing during the pandemic were doing really well. And then we decided, you know what, we need to invest in them. And so over the past maybe 2 years or so, we have really moved them over to being more talent-based. And yes, there's always a fear that, you know, you build them up, they may leave us, and it is centered around them. But that's what we're in the business of doing. We want our hosts and talent to be the experts in whatever they're talking about, and that is exactly what Danny and Evan are good at. And also with that, we've done that with other editors that we've had. So like Lydia for New York Next, she is a financial correspondent for us. And again, we saw that she is great on camera. The amount of connection she has as well to be talking to CEOs and visionaries is something that, you know, we definitely utilize. And again, we built her up as well to, again, move over from just being an editor or correspondent to actually being more of a talent and host.
All right. Well, thank you, Stephanie. Really appreciate it.
Thank